We'll get started in just a moment. Okay, good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. My name is Serena Lino. I'm the Administrative Services Officer for our Planning and Economic Development Department, and I'll be your facilitator this evening. As you've experienced, for those of you who came in the past, we are doing another neighborhood meeting for this project. We'll have the folks up here at the table introduce themselves in just a moment, and then we will begin the agenda. But a few things, a few housekeeping items before we start. If anybody needs to use the restroom, we have a public restroom that is down in the courtyard outside. It's just past the elevator, and the code for that is 1010. Also, too, we will start the meeting with the presentation first from our city staff, and then we will invite our applicant team to talk about the project specifically. And then after the presentation, we will open it up for the question and answers. So we will be using the two podiums up here at the top of the room, and we'll go back and forth between the two. Also, too, for those who need it, we also have a microphone that we can bring up to you as well. The third option is we have speaker cards. On one side has the agenda with a QR code that will access our website. And then on the flip side of it is a space for you to write your question or write a comment. Not everybody always feels comfortable speaking publicly at the mic, and so we wanted to be able to provide another option for you if you would like to leave your questions or your comments. We will also be recording this evening's meeting, so we are able to post it on our website, and you can review it at a later date, or for those who are unable to make it this evening, we'll be able to access it on our website. So what that means is that we need to use the microphone anytime we have any questions, answers, comments, what have you. Let's see here. Okay, I think that's my initial housekeeping items. And then we'll go ahead and have the staff up here introduce themselves, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So we'll start over here to my right first.
Good evening. My name is Paul Lowenthal, the Division Chief Fire Marshal for the Santa Rosa Fire Department.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jessica Jones. I'm the Deputy Director of Planning here at the city.
And my name is Monet Shekhali, Supervising Planner.
I'm Sheila Walski. I'm the project planner for the Meadow at Rincon Valley.
Mayor Matz, the applicant.
I'm Rick Carlisle with BKF Engineers, civil engineer for the project.
Cleve Gurney, Deputy Director of Engineering Development Services.
I'm Mike Van Middy. I'm the Acting Deputy Director of Transportation and Public Works Traffic Engineering.
And Zach Metley, the transportation consultant that is working on the project.
Okay, so we have various representatives here from the city that will be able to answer any of the questions that may come up this evening. One of the things that we wanted to remind everybody is about the City of Santa Rosa Civility Code. And so this is important for us as city employees as well as members of the public to ensure that we maintain our civility here in the room. We ask that everybody please be respectful and not speak up out of turn, allow the presentation to go as planned, and then allow any comments or questions to come up during the question and answer period. You'll see, well, it's not up at the moment, but we did have it scrolling through in the initial PowerPoint as we were waiting for everybody to arrive this evening. The other important thing to point out is that in today's meeting, no decisions will be made. So we wanted to reiterate that first and foremost. All comments will be heard and recorded, though, as part of this meeting. And any comments after this meeting this evening can be sent to Sheila Wolski over here, and her contact information will be up on the screen as it cycles through, and it will also be included as part of her presentation. And I believe those are all of the specifics, and we can go ahead and turn it over to Sheila to begin the presentation.
Hi, everybody. I know I already introduced myself, but again, I'm Sheila Wolski, project planner for the Meadow at Rincon Valley. And I want to thank you all for taking time to be with us here tonight, also on Zoom as well. The purpose of the neighborhood meeting is for staff to explain what our roles are in the process, the applicant team to provide an overview of their project, and to allow time for question and answer. This project is still going under initial application completeness review. Staff has no position on the project at this time. We're just here to answer questions. This is the second neighborhood meeting for the project, which is recommended to be held after the formal development application has been received, and that has been done. We're also aware that the fire department got called out of your first neighborhood meeting back in September, so we wanted to allow an opportunity for questions to be asked of fire staff here tonight. On this slide is a very, very brief description of what the project is. And then the bullet points below that just describe the entitlements that the applicant is pursuing with the city: small lot subdivision, tentative map to subdivide lots, pre-zoning, and then annexation, which would potentially go through, well, if it goes there, it would go through Sonoma County LAFCO. They approved the annexation. In addition to planning, there are multiple other departments in the city that are reviewing this project. But again, that completeness review has not been completed. So I'm posting my contact information on this slide. Feel free to take a picture or put it in your phone. There will be future public meetings on this project, at which time you can certainly make public comments, but I'm available at any time during this process. If you'd like to reach out to me, phone, email, or we can set an appointment time to meet. And with that, I'll hand it over to Aaron Matz, the applicant.
a little background on the project. I picked it up in 2015. The previous owner and developer had come up with this conceptual site plan, and I believe they had even notified the neighborhood. The meeting did not take place. The owner asked for it to be withdrawn, but this is conceptually what they had come up with, which was 45 units, all two-story, and 6 attached units. I was able to talk to the planner at that point. She had received some feedback along with the previous builder. So we made some revisions, and if you could go to the next slide. One back, I'm sorry. Thank you. This is the submittal as it went into the city. So what we now have is 42 units, no attached housing, and 27%, over 25% single story. There's a total, as I said, of 42 units. The average lot size is right around 4,500 square feet. To put that in sort of common parlance, Coffee Park has a lot of 45 by 100 lots. So 4,500 is a fairly typical size for a single family lot. Other than that, the street layout was pretty well set by the 3 stub streets. You have Cox, Bridgewood, and Pearl, which all needed to connect. If you could click to the next slide. So we have 4 plans with 3 elevations per plan type. The 1,680 square foot being the single story, all the way up to 2,700 foot two-story, with two stories in between those square footage. The idea being that we thought single family detached only would help match the existing characteristic of the neighborhood that surrounded it. I'm sure you guys have varying opinions on whether or not we accomplished that, but that was the thought process. If you could click to the next slide, thank you. This is just going to be elevations of the plans. And you can just go through them if you would. And I know you guys have a lot of questions, so that's the presentation. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and begin the question and answer period. So if you would like to make your way up to the podium, if you have a question in mind, we'll take a moment to allow folks to move up to the top. And again, if you have an interest in using the comment card, they are up here at the top by this door over here. And if you do want to submit one, Tara over here can come and get it for you, or from you, excuse me. And then I'll make sure that, yeah. Hello. Okay, we'll start with you since we.
Hi, my name's Diane. Diane Estens. I live on Pearl Drive. I had a little bit of a problem with the short time span of this meeting, but I've talked to Sheila about it. We didn't get much notice. I hope everybody that could be here is here. A lot of them are on vacation because it's a July 4th week. I'm sorry? Louder? Okay. I'm sure that the fire marshal is perfectly aware that the area that our home lives in has burned historically in 1870, 1964, 2017, 2019, and 2020 in the same footprint. So one time is a fluke, the second time is a coincidence, the third time is a trend. I feel like we're a little bit more in danger than some of the other areas in our city that are fire prone. We don't live specifically in a high fire zone, which I think is ironic because everyone's homeowner's insurance has been canceled. But we are surrounded by high fire, which we experienced in real time in 2017, 2019, and 2020. And we all know nobody was equipped in 2017. There's been many more preparations made by CAL FIRE, and I appreciate that. Everybody's faster. But what we know from 2017 is when nature takes off and that wind comes through, no fire department, no hose, nobody, no plane can help you. It's just going to whip through. It's going to do what it wants to do. Fortunately for us, In 2017, it came within blocks of us, but had the wind been in a different direction, that wouldn't have been the case. We had many charred pieces of wood on our property and leaves, and we know it was just a matter of coincidence. People that lived on Anderson by the creek were able to stop the fire at their end on the creek. If that creek had been allowed to go, it would have been behind our home and all the new homes that you're planning to build. So just by experience, I don't feel comfortable with saying we're in a low fire zone. The other thing is that you had expressed that we don't have enough evacuation points from our area. That's currently dangerous as is. But we do have an evacuation opening at the end of Patrick Drive, which only the fire department has access to, but I believe now neighbors do also. If that were open, it would open onto Brush Creek and have a nice large opening for other people to exit. And even if you do go forward with the project, that's something to consider because it's another exit from our area. And I think we knew when we moved in there that they were going to build homes. That was clear to us. They had a sign on our fence for years. And I think what we didn't know was that we were going to be we could have never imagined wildfires in our neighborhood. And we could have never known the density. I think a lot of us have problems with the density of the homes. I wish you would lower the amount of homes. And when we talk about Coffee Park and that the density is similar to them, Coffee Park blew up because each home that caught fire was so close to the next that it created a fire hazard for the following home and so on and so forth. And we know what happened there. And that's another concern of mine. I wanted to ask you, the openings for this will be on Pearl, Cox, and Bridgewood. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And can you tell me how Zimmerman's going to be impacted?
It won't be impacted at all.
It won't be an evacuation exit or anything?
So we had a pre-development meeting with the various departments. We currently show we were potentially going to give them an EVA. The fire told us because it wasn't a conforming EVA, they didn't even want it, and they didn't see it as necessary. I think the people in Zimmerman don't want to see it either.
Right. It doesn't make sense because that road is so narrow.
You're right. I mean, we were talking about before, it's maybe 10, 12 feet in some spots. It's very narrow.
Right. And can you tell me when the date of the site work, I mean, I know you have to wait for approvals, but when you assume it might start, the work itself on just the site?
A best case scenario would be like 2029, 2030.
Okay. And I'd heard this, but I don't know if this is true, that it will take 3 to 4 years to complete this?
I would think that would be correct, yeah.
Okay. And you can understand that a lot of the neighbors will be highly impacted by that for a great number of years, which I don't think anybody appreciates either.
I mean, but we appreciate housing, right?
Right. And can you tell me the construction trucks that might need to go through neighborhoods, do you have an idea of which opening they will be coming through, or will it be all of them, or?
I can't guarantee it. I know that there was one person that wrote in for fear that we would use Zimmerman as an access. That was almost certainly not going to be the case. They would want to come in off a paved road. I think Bridgewood is a probability.
Okay.
You guys, you want honesty, that's honesty.
Okay.
Also, Pearl is potentially, I see Cox as the least likely.
Okay. Because we have a number of course, families, children. It's going to impact not only our quality of life, but probably the pricing of our homes for quite a long time while you do that process. And you can understand why we'd have concerns. And I know that you said if you put in fewer homes than 42, you would lose money. And I understand that, but you're impacting our lives greatly too. And I would really, really wish you could lower the number of density. Sheila had explained the number of density goes from a 1 to an 8, and this is at a 7. And I really wish that you could lower the number of homes. And, I'm sure.
I think is it 2 to 8? I'm not exactly sure. The infrastructure costs are what is driving the density. On top of that, there is a preference for at least meeting the midpoint or higher in density, given the limited amount of housing being developed in Santa Rosa right now, especially market rate housing like this. I know this seems dense to you guys. As somebody who's been building in the area for, 20 years now and built projects recently, this would be one of the less dense projects I built as of recently. I know it doesn't seem that way, but they keep pushing them in.
Okay, all right. So we'll go ahead and move up to the podiums. I should have mentioned this before, but we do have, the meeting goes until 6 p.m. this evening. And so we want to make sure that we get through everybody who wants a chance to be able to comment. So we just ask that you keep it around 3-4 minutes or so, and then we'll gauge it as time goes on. But I should have mentioned that at the beginning. So we'll go ahead and start over here first.
Okay, can you hear me? So what I would like to request from the
Oh, I should
council.
mention too, if you need help, you can lower the podium. There should be
Oh.
like a little button on the side,
That's okay.
on both sides.
I'm fine. I would like to request honesty from our city council and the planners. Because at the last meeting, you had mentioned that we were in a low fire zone. Also, you put up a slide that said that housing development is the same density as the existing neighborhoods. I did the math, and 3 of those lots can fit onto my lot. Also, we all know, we're all going to talk about fire because it's, it's frightening. So we were evacuated 4 years in a row. The fire came within blocks of the proposed site. They put up a slide last time that said we were not in the high fire risk area. The forward motion of the fire last time was halted by homeowners in the area, not by the fire department. There also, I have a document that was created in 2022 that was not created by Sonoma County. I think it was perhaps FEMA related, but it was a wildfire risk index, which said that we are in a high risk area. We're rated at 11 of 13, very high, with the highest ranking being 14. Also, traffic in this area is a major concern. If you add at least 100 cars to this area, it's going to create massive traffic jams and also evacuation concerns. In 2017, we were gridlocked along Brush Creek Road. It took over an hour for people to travel from Badger to Fountain Grove. There are already existing congestion issues, especially with all of the schools in the area. I saw that there was a brief traffic study done with cameras at the end of Bridgewood and Petrie for only 24 hours. I'm concerned also with the timing of this meeting and the timing of the project that you're going to try and do a traffic study when school is not in session. That changes the density of the traffic in our areas. There are moments when Middle Rincon is completely congested. You can't even get through. People are double parked on the street. 8 o'clock in the morning, well, 8:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock, 7:30 to 8 o'clock, you can't turn out of Petrie onto Badger. It's so congested and backed up because of the schools. Let's see. I think you need multiple intersections when you do the traffic study, and you need to do multiple days. I'm also concerned about what the city of Santa Rosa allows for construction. 7 a.m. in the morning until 7 p.m. in the evening, Monday through Friday, 8 to 6 o'clock on Saturday. We live in this community. That field is an echo chamber. We can hear the fairgrounds. We can hear construction being done along the ridge on Fountain Grove. It is going to drastically impact all of the people who live in those homes. I mean, do we still have to pay property taxes on our house if we can't live there? I mean, we pay a lot of money in our property taxes, and I've invested a lot of money in my home. That's my sanctuary. That's where I go to be happy. I also wanted to mention, I looked up that the city of Santa Rosa is currently in compliance with the state mandated housing element law. So we're good on housing right now. I have a printout of all of the housing that's planned and approved. If anybody needs to look at it, I would think the city council would already know, the city planners. Basically, the current infrastructure in this area does not support all of this additional housing. I feel like this is a decision that's going to be made, but it's going to affect our lives. So I'm hoping that people can really take into consideration what this is going to do to this area. I feel like a lot of poor planning decisions have been made in Santa Rosa. I've lived here my entire life. My mother has lived here her entire life. My grandfather grew up here. And even just getting here from Kaiser, the traffic is completely backed up. There just isn't, there's too many people, too many cars. I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Okay, over here to this podium.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Thompson. I believe our community understands that Santa Rosa needs housing. I don't believe that we are arguing against growth. We have a request for responsible growth, growth that is matched with infrastructure, emergency services, and financial capacity necessary to protect both current residents and future residents. This proposal comes at an important time for our city. Santa Rosa has stated that its population has grown approximately 12% since 2010, while general fund staffing has returned to approximately 2010 levels. The city is currently addressing a $17.5 million budget deficit. They've reduced staffing by 28 positions and relying on a $7.6 million one-time reserve to maintain current services. At the same time, Santa Rosa continues to plan for additional housing growth. That makes the question before us very important. Are our infrastructure, emergency services, and financial resources keeping pace with the growth you're approving? For this 42-home project, I'm asking for three things. First, a transparent fiscal impact analysis. If this development is expected to benefit the city financially, we need to understand whether ongoing revenues will exceed the long-term costs of serving these additional residents. I recognize that developer impact fees may help address certain infrastructure needs. However, a one-time fee does not cover the ongoing costs created by additional residents, including police, fire protection, emergency response, road maintenance, utilities, and future infrastructure replacement. A one-time payment does not eliminate a long-term obligation. Second, wildfire safety must be evaluated based on the reality of this community. This is Santa Rosa. We've experienced rapidly moving wildfires, evacuation challenges, property loss, and tragic loss of life. Many residents have also experienced increased insurance costs or difficulty maintaining coverage at all because insurers view wildfire risk as a serious concern. Residents deserve to know, has evacuation capacity been evaluated under realistic wildfire conditions? Can emergency services support both existing residents and additional residents of this project, especially with the budget cuts? Third, infrastructure capacity must be demonstrated. Roads, water systems, storm drainage, public services, they must be able to support this development without further compromising the systems existing that residents already depend on. The question before the city is not whether housing is needed. The question is whether this project can be safely, financially, and sustainably supported today. Responsible growth means ensuring that new development strengthens our community rather than placing additional strain on the systems that are already under pressure. I respectfully ask that the city complete a thorough and transparent evaluation before moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, over here to this podium.
My name is Bruce Marinese. I live on Bridgewood Drive, and I've been there since 2010. That area is a park, more or less, for deer. And my kids and my family have been using it for years. We walk to the park, even though we don't go on to the area because it's fenced off. I would like not to see it developed, but if that's not a realistic, I would ask, these are executive homes from the 1960s. You're looking to put in high-density homes, which is going to lower the value of the homes that are there existing. If you were going to do something, I would say half a park, half of that area, make it a park, and the other half, make it executive homes bigger or the same size. There's a traffic impact. 1,600 cars or 1,600 students go to Maria Carrillo My daughter just graduated there, and now they're putting in 7th and 8th graders in there in the next couple of years. The impact of traffic on Montecito Boulevard and crossing onto Bridgewood is not a joy, to say the least. And so putting this additional amount of housing there, I think, is asking for an additional amount of problems of traffic, significant traffic, and it's not going to increase the value of our homes. I understand the city is behind in revenue, but having a bigger home with more land to those homes, I think will give you more revenue in a more sustained area. And having a park, our whole area does not have a park at all. The walk to Brush Creek Park is too far and not realistic. The escape routes for fire, people have mentioned it before. I'll mention it too. At 2017, at 5 in the morning, at 2:30 in the morning, I come on out and there was 5 cars ahead of me. It is not an easy neighborhood to get in and out of. I ask that you reconsider the sizing and put in a park. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, over here to this podium.
Okay, thank you. My name's Louis Atherton. I live on Cox Court. As a layman, I tried to read through the transportation impact study, and there's a lot in there I didn't understand. The major thing that I didn't understand is why they didn't address the access on Pfister, the intersection of Pfister and Brush Creek. I believe they addressed Badger and Montecito, but I believe that that other intersection deserves greater attention. I was also a bit confused on the vehicle miles traveled. I questioned some of the logic that they're using in terms of increasing or decreasing the VMT factors. I understand that if you have a development that's down near city center, near bus routes, near shops, that if you put in greater density housing, it reduces the VMT. That's understood. If you put that same density out in the middle of the county, that would make no sense because that would greatly increase VMT. Well, we're in between, and I don't believe that that impact study gave credit to the number of miles that vehicles would have to travel, particularly since there's no public transportation nearby. Shops are also at some distance. So I'm hoping that someone on the Planning Commission is taking a close look, and we'll have that transportation impact study greatly enhanced. I do feel it's inadequate at this point. And one other issue, minor, looking at some of the diagrams, I'm hoping that fire has taken a look at these, the street layouts. I noticed that on the cul-de-sac in the middle of the development, it seems like the entrance into that cul-de-sac is some sort of encroachment. I don't know if it's for landscaping or what, but why would the roads be narrowed down from the normal width? And wouldn't that be a factor, particularly on that intersection for emergency vehicles and fire vehicles? One last thing on safety and fire. There is a small access road that's being planned or shown in the plans out to Zimmerman Lane. But from my looking at the diagrams, I believe the developer is keeping that as small as possible in order to get that other house, get that 42nd house in there. I think if we're looking to the future, and if sometime that ever does become incorporated into the county, given fire safety, I think that there should be a contingency of a normal width for a street that would lead out to Zimmerman. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, over here to this podium. Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Joyce Sloan, and I live on Zimmerman. And my concern is about whether Zimmerman is going to be annexed. My concern is I've heard that if it is annexed, that if our well or our septic fails, we would be required to hook up to city services. That could be extremely costly since the lane doesn't have the services in the street. So that's my concern. I would like, if they would like us to annex, to bring all the utilities all the way down the lane. That's it.
Cleve Gurney, Deputy Director of Engineering Development Services. So a lot of the water and sewer questions, if you get very specific with it, we need some water department input here. But in regards to annexation of those parcels that are on county islands, so when you annex, that gives you the opportunity to connect into sewer and water if those services are available in Middle Rincon or in one of those frontages that you're fronting on. I don't know the exact lot that you're on. In regards to whether or not you're going to be required to connect, I don't have that answer at this time, but I would think not.
Are you going to be putting the utilities down the lane? Is the city going to put all utilities so that if we wanted to hook up, we could?
So based off the this plan that's up there right now, there would be proposed public utilities, sewer, water, and storm drain within those public roadways.
It's not a public roadway, it's a private road.
I'm saying for those public roads that are shown there. So Zimmerman itself, I do not have records of whether or not there's an easement over it for public access or not. So we would have to look at the actual record title.
Right now, the property is, I believe that is part of this 6 acres, like 12 feet of it. And it will be annexed. So I just don't know how that's going to affect the people that live on Zimmerman as far as what I spoke about.
So if Zimmerman, if it's private, the city is not going to be putting public utilities within a private roadway. If there's public easements over that, then there is that option in the future, or if a developer comes in and extends those public utilities. But if it's private and there's no easement rights to the city or to the public, then we can't legally put in public utilities through that corridor.
So if I was told that we would be asked if we want to annex or not.
So to respond to that, we're trying to annex by ourselves, and our conversations with LAFCO have confirmed that they will allow us to annex independently of any other parcel. It would be up to, if they do a survey of the surrounding parcels or individual parcels, if they wanted to join. But I'm certainly not compelling anybody else to annex.
I was told a vote, that everybody on the lane would vote whether they want to annex. And if there was more than, I think, 2 or 3, then we would all be forced to annex. Is that not true?
So LAFCO oftentimes will send out what's called a sentiment survey to see if there are other parcels within the county island that want to be annexed. Sounds like there's already been some conversations with LAFCO, and they're okay with just this parcel being annexed. So if that's the case and there are not enough other parcels that want to be annexed, then LAFCO would not force that. And that decision is entirely up to LAFCO. It is not a city decision. So it sounds like LAFCO is okay with just this one unless there is interest from the rest to come in.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, over here to this podium.
Hi, my name is Kathy Gulick, and I live on Offner Lane. My home backs up to this property. We bought this home when it was new in 1994. And we have totally enjoyed living there, of course. And now we're in our senior years, and we're really worried about trying to live in our home and have to hear the sounds of construction for the many hours they are proposing. My other concern is the deer. This is a sanctuary for the deer. They come and they play and they eat and they mate and they give birth. And last week, one of them died, and it was a young buck. And from looking at his carcass, it looked like he had been hit by a car, most likely on Brush Creek Road. And my neighbor dealt with it because he died in his backyard. Back in October, on October 9th, 2017, I got a call at 2 in the morning from my husband that he was told to evacuate, that there was a big fire. He asked me what I should take. I was in a stupor. I said, well, everything. And then I called back and I realized, okay, this is what he needs to do. We did not have an evacuation plan for fires. We do now. We bought a safe. But my concern was that night, it took him over an hour to go on Brush Creek to Highway 12. And the next time we evacuated, we didn't go that way. We went Middle Rincon, which was much better because that was a wider road. But it's a big issue here. It is a big issue with evacuations. You know, when our city was on fire like that, it was just horrible. Another thing about, you know, why are we building all these homes when they're closing schools? I mean, are these homes going to have families? Are they going to go to these schools? You go to the schools in your neighborhood, not the ones across town. That's very, very disheartening to see this happening in Santa Rosa with our schools. The developer is asking for 2 massive discretionary favors: a major conditional use permit for small lot subdivisions and annexation into the city limits. The city has no obligation to annex a parcel that imports a severe life safety liability into its jurisdiction. Why should the city assume the liability of a known evacuation bottleneck, especially during heightened red flag warnings? How can the Planning Commission legally justify granting a major conditional use permit for high density, small lots in an area that already lacks the infrastructure to safely evacuate its current density? Thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you. Okay, over here to this podium. And I want to do a quick time check here. We're about 17 more minutes or so, and it looks like we have maybe 5 more people. So just a quick check-in. Go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for being here, and thanks in advance for listening to our concerns. I want to go on the record. Scott Loopster, I live on Bridgewood Drive. I want to go on the record saying that having a small, having this higher density division within the center of this group of already established subdivisions seems irresponsible to me on various reasons, both for infrastructure as well as evacuation safety. And during one of the earlier meetings, the gentleman, the applicant, made a comment about the profitability of needing to put in 42 houses into this small area. And so my question would be, would the city be at all concerned about the profitability to the developer when making this decision?
No, the city does not. In approving or denying a project, the city does not look at the cost or the profitability of a project. There are specific conditions of approval and specific findings that are included in the city's municipal code that the decision-making bodies take into account, but it does not include financial.
Okay, very good to know. I just want to make sure that when we make this decision that we are considering, lower density as well as, of course, we'd all love to see a park in there. I understand the extreme low profitability of building a park, but I want to make sure that a lower density subdivision would be on the agenda when making this final decision. So thank you again.
Thank you. Okay, over here.
My name's Kenneth O'Neill, and I live on Bridgewood Drive. And actually, I'm an original family on Bridgewood Drive. We moved into Bridgewood in 1968. So I've seen a lot of changes go on. But my concern is the creeks. Our house backs up to the creek and it's Brush Creek is behind my house on Bridgewood Drive, which is on the Montecito side. And the other side of Bridgewood, it's called Rincon Creek on the Brush Creek side. It's kind of confusing. But I don't know what is, the creek behind my house on Brush Creek is a rural creek. It's not maintained by the city. Unless there's a blockage, they will come out and maybe clear that blockage. They don't maintain the creek. It's a country rural creek and it's not designed for major storm runoff. I've been in, this house has been in our family since '68. I've seen that creek rise and rise. And I've took over ownership of the house in 2017 and it's every year it gets scarier and scarier from all the new types of yards that are put in that are low maintenance and the storm runoff is much quicker and the more building in the neighborhood, the creeks rise and rise. So with this new development, the storm runoff is going to hit these little country rural creeks and cause an extreme amount of erosion and flooding. I know our neighbor, a couple doors down, had to get them out and clear a block flooded and flooded their backyard. I asked them to remove, the city was out, I asked them to remove a fallen tree behind our house. They said they don't do it. It's a natural rural creek. So we're going to have nothing but flood problems and issues with the storm runoff. So my question and concern is what is being done to address the storm runoff with the new development and all the roads down that way. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Cleve Gurney, Deputy Director of Engineering Development Services. I'll let Rick chime in also if he has anything else to add. But with the proposed development, they'll be required to capture and treat all the stormwater runoff from any of those impervious surfaces. So those are all going to go to vegetated basins, and that's going to be holding water for a certain storm event. And then the actual 10-year storm and 100-year storm, they have to prove in a drainage report and with public infrastructure that they're conveying all that water and it's going to an approved outlet. So somewhere else, whether a downstream creek or a pipe that's downstream of the project. So that's all something we would review once we get the application materials. We're looking at a drainage report. We're looking at civil drawings. It's going to tell us how much impervious surface is proposed. It's analyzing the existing amount of impervious surface and then proving to us that there's not going to be any impact downstream or to the project or adjacent properties.
Yeah, I think.
Well, these upper creeks or rural non-maintained creeks, southwest of Montecito is a lined creek with boulders and it's maintained. The up above Montecito are rural natural creeks that are not maintained and they're near flooding every year. With more runoff, more storm drains, we're going to have nothing but problems if they're not maintained and something's done. If you're going to put in a big housing development, the storm drain streets and the houses, and you can see there's just huge funnels. So we're going to have major issues if that's not addressed. All righty, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add to that also. So there's several areas in the city where the city maintains certain creeks. There's some creeks that are maintained by Sonoma County Water Agency. There's different pipes that are maintained by different agencies. But for this development, they have to prove to us that the development itself is not increasing. So if there is an issue, they are not going to make that issue worse. They're going to be improving it downstream, holding water for a certain period of time, conveying the water so the pipe is not overburdened, that creek is not taking additional runoff of what it's designed to.
Well, obviously it's going to, you can see. And is that in the planning or are you just saying that's generally what they do? Is that in the planning now to address storm drain runoff?
It is a requirement. So as part of the entitlement package, we're going to be reviewing an initial drainage report, an initial stormwater low impact development report, civil drawings, grading plans, and then once they get into the building permit stage and public improvement plan review, we're actually sharpening our pencils and they're going to be required to submit a final report So Rick and his team are going to be submitting all those documents. It's going to be reviewed multiple times and ensure that all of that infrastructure is actually designed adequately.
My address is 6432. You're welcome to come in my backyard and jump the creek behind me. It's an S turn right behind it, and you can see how overgrown the creeks are. And in the winter, they're near flooding at capacity now. So.
To put it in layman's terms, you will not see a catch basin directly enter a storm drain in any modern subdivision anymore. They all go to a volume capture area. The idea that there's an open catch basin in the street that just flows directly into a storm drain right out to the creek, that doesn't occur anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, over here.
Thank you. The first issue I have is the comment that the
Can you speak into the mic just a little bit more? Yeah.
First issue I have is the comment that the fire department is not interested in the access on Zimmerman. I find that to be totally unacceptable. And I hope that somebody takes another look at it, a serious look at it, because what we're creating here is a population density nightmare. And I'm being polite. You put the number of people that you're expecting to drive out Bridgewood onto Montecito in an emergency situation, you are going to bring out the absolute worst in these people. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. I have a lot of experience professionally in this background. And believe me, when you reach a certain percentage, you reach this certain breaking point, people just go ballistic. And you're going to see people driving down the sidewalk to get out of Bridgewood in an emergency situation. You put large trucks in that situation, what you're going to do is you're going to create the same scenario that everybody goes through waiting for one individual to turn left on Montecito, because it's just going to take them just as long to get out and turn right as it would anybody else to turn left because of the size. And the traffic coming from the east on Montecito is very, very unforgiving, very unforgiving. It's like a slingshot coming around that curve. As soon as they hit the curve, the acceleration goes up. And anybody that's familiar with the area will attest to this. So I've heard a number of times that, well, it's going to be okay because there's going to be 3 points of egress. That means nothing, because the 3 points of egress that exist now are worthless. I was heard from a person that lives on Pfister during the last round, and this person was 4 houses down from Brush Creek. It took her over 2 hours to get onto Brush Creek, and she's 4 houses away. And now you're saying it takes an hour to get from Badger to Montecito on Brush Creek. Well, now you're 3 hours away, you know, and what's the fire been doing in that amount of time? So I urge people to take another look at the, you know, in this case, the worst case scenarios, because there is going to be a situation where that's going to exist. And when you crowd that many people together in motor vehicles where they have absolute power, I guarantee you're going to see some really, really ugly situations. So please, I keep hearing this thing about the fire department's not interested in Zimmerman. I find that to be very sad. Thank you.
So thank you for the comments. I will admit this is a little bit different format. Typically in past meetings, there's a lot more questions. And in this particular case, there's just been a lot of statements. And so we've been kind of sidebarring, and at the end of the meeting, it was going to work to address a lot of the statements, whether factual or just needing to work to address and make sure there's some clarifications. So I'll save a lot of it for the end in essence of time and wanting other people to get a chance to talk, but I'll address specifically the access points. So Zimmerman, as we know right now, is a private lane that does not meet our current fire department requirements. It's really interesting to kind of see some of the community feedback. In some cases, in some projects, we actually want neighborhoods like that. Sorry, we get neighborhoods like that want the development, that recognize where the risk is coming from and want another access point to be able to leave their neighborhood and encourage the increase in infrastructure from a small, narrow, private lane to a modified 20-foot wide true emergency vehicle access. In this particular case, this project is not required to tie into Zimmerman. If there was a decision that they wanted to, they would have to bring Zimmerman up to current standards with an emergency vehicle access, with actual, what we refer to as Knox gate with Opticom, where we have control of the gates, not just simple bollards, but it would have to come into compliance with our requirements so that we can use it for access. And then potentially, because in the city of Santa Rosa, we allow access, apparatus access, to also be used for evacuation routes in certain circumstances. Based on the size of this project and the number of housing units, the city of Santa Rosa actually has a more restrictive requirement than state law. We've learned lessons, which we can get into with a lot of the comments that have been made about 2017, but we require additional points of access based on a lesser amount of housing units. This project, as designed without Zimmerman, has it. One of the things that we learned following 2017 was people's ability to know your ways out. As the applicant's team mentioned, this area was designed for those streets to eventually go into. You can see how they dead end. You can look at a map and you can see where they stopped, and where eventually in time there was some planning that went into for what this was supposed to look like from a circulation standpoint. I will tell you, as somebody that personally was there, when we, as the city of Santa Rosa, did not get any notification that the fire was coming, just as a number of the residents didn't get any notification, we learned that people need more ways out. So projects like these, infill projects, help with circulation. And when we look at this, it allows some residents that currently in existing neighborhoods have one way out of their cul-de-sac, a second way based on what potentially is happening. And I'm seeing heads shaking, and I'm sorry, I'm more than happy to discuss those concerns with you after the meeting, set up sidebars, whatever the case may be. But one of the things that we've learned about is having people know your ways out and being able to evacuate from different points of direction and having different options. While we're on the topic, the 2017 issue and the traffic that occurred from that was clearly out of control of the city's capabilities. We had no authority to do alert warning. The city of Santa Rosa had no idea that fire was coming. We learned a ton, we've changed a ton, and in 2020, the evacuations worked as completely planned. We knew that we had 4 hours to get everybody out of the East Santa Rosa. We did it, and we did it successfully, knowing the amount of time. But one of the things that we saw was that because that we had people that were being forced to go in one direction, or that weren't using their multiple ways out of their neighborhood, they were still naturally drawn to constantly take their main artery streets down to Sonoma Highway and take Sonoma Highway to Farmers Lane. The Santa Rosa Fire Department, Transportation, Public Works, and our police department have incorporated what we refer to as a flush plan. So it's taking a lot of these projects like this project, Mahonia Glen, it's Calistoga Road and Highway 12 into account, and has given us more tools in our toolbox to not only alert and warn, to make sure that people have time to get out of their neighborhoods, that they have the different ways out of their neighborhoods, but now they also have the ability to get out of East Santa Rosa a lot faster. So with that, I know there's going to be more questions, but I want to allow the next individual to speak.
Go ahead.
My name is Heather Green, and I'm on Petrie Drive. Can you hear me?
Maybe a little closer to the mic.
Okay. My name is Heather Green, and I live on Petrie Drive. Given everything that's been discussed, I appreciate what you just said about fire access, because that is my biggest issue. In 2017, I couldn't go anywhere because I couldn't get out, and I'm on Petrie, which is right directly on Badger. So there was nowhere to go. Brush Creek was jammed, Montecito was jammed, and Brush Creek especially has no venue. I mean, 2-lane road, when you have everyone coming off the hills and everywhere else to be able to exit, much less anyone off of Pfister. This may give me access to Bridgewood, but it's not going to be any better because they're more dense than my neighborhood is. So I really would like to see that the home builder and in conjunction with maybe the planning committee do a additional emergency zero notice evacuation planning or modeling for how do we get out of here if we're in danger, and what services are offered to us. We don't do well in panic mode, so especially when it's in the middle of the night and your neighbor's calling you to tell you run because the fire is a block away. We've been, as Diane mentioned, from 1864, 2017 through 2020, this is a known corridor for fire. We're not going to get away from it. Most of us have had our homeowners insurance canceled at least once, maybe twice. I'd like to ask how you believe all these new houses with more fire damage and opportunity are going to be insured, because State Farm, AAA, all the big companies are saying it's not an insurable area. So that's a concern for you, to think that you might be sitting on some property for a long time. We'd like to ask also, you give us some timelines and how you're funding the widening of any adjacent roads and emergency access routes before you ever start grading, because we'd like to know what's going on before it happens, not after or during. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. One second here. So I just want to do a quick time check. We are at 6 o'clock and I see we have a couple more comments. So I want to make sure that we are able to capture everybody's comments, but also still be respectful of everybody's time. So I see we have 1, 2, and then would you like one as well? Okay, sure. Nope. Yeah, I can bring the mic to you, no problem. Okay, over here.
My name is Julie Good and I live on Bridgewood Drive. I just heard you say that maybe 3 years it's going to take you to build, and it's going to be on Bridgewood Drive, mostly going in and out. I want to know from the city, who's going to repair the street on Bridgewood? Every day there's plumbers. Every day we're told that our infrastructure, our clay pipes are failing. I was told by the city when mine went out that they had no money and they weren't going to fix the street. 3 years of watching big trucks go up and down Bridgewood, who fixes it? Nobody? Or does the city come in and going to repair that? Because it's pretty bad. We just feel like we're pretty boxed in because of the building on Calistoga Road. Now they're doing more Skyhawk. Now they're doing Benjamin. What's going to happen with up on the hill at Sinead? It just feels like our little area is getting boxed in. So that's all I have to say, and consider that who's going to fix our streets. Thank you.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to hand it over to our acting deputy director to comment on the roadway.
Thanks, Mike Benmidi, acting deputy director of traffic engineering. So any damage done by any developer would be repaired by the developer. The roadways, like you mentioned, generally are in poor condition. So our director of transportation and public work is actively working to fix roads as quickly as possible. So we know that that's a separate issue than this project, but I think Rincon Valley is due for some road maintenance in the 2027 year. I don't know specifically. So, and then in the meantime, if you have any potholes, my Santa Rosa app, or you could call us at TPW and we could go and fix potholes.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll go over here to this podium and then I'll hand it over here in just a moment.
Okay, good evening. Thanks so much for the time. I'm a resident on Burn Court and live in the neighborhood. And in my opinion, the density aspirations of this project are not a fit with the existing infrastructure that surrounds all 4 sides of it. A higher density plan that is proposed for a top to bottom construction and new service area to the city of Santa Rosa seems forced and packed inside a previously established residential home environment currently zoned R16. With this second project application that you're proposing, this is an R17. So if I understand it, you want to develop 40 plus townhomes, I suppose, in a neighborhood within a neighborhood. So one question is, does the proposed space currently enclosed, fully surrounded with current people and with families, have the plan in place with that narrow 1-lane emergency exit you had mentioned earlier regarding Zimmerman Lane? I would like to just, I do need further clarification again on whether a plan's in place to have the single street be a developed emergency egress and ingress. The gentleman and others also previously mentioned the soil runoff issue, and I second that great concern. This isn't a case where you're replacing an existing street of homes with some new townhomes. This is breaking ground in the last remaining meadow and wildlife corridor for this particular northern Brush Creek area section, starting with the required soil surface grading and compact movement and grading requirements to install city service. And I did listen to your catch-all soil runoff requirements that you have by City of Santa Rosa, legal requirements, but that doesn't account for weather and additional runoff from construction. So there are definite questions from neighbors on this runoff impact. In my opinion, you're attempting to create infrastructures from the ground up to be city approved. And with this particular property location, you have a greater responsibility to bear. I see no attempt or address to the noise mitigation issues that will absolutely be present for the closely established homes and properties in the neighborhoods. These neighborhoods currently are flush up, as you know, against the proposed Meadow area for which you plan to begin a full-scale construction. Needless to say, this will have a direct impact on the neighborhood's quality of life and its sound environment, living day to day with constant construction. Property values will be affected greatly, and homeowners and family members' life and health will be affected in a negative way. We have safety officers, healthcare workers, night shifters, from police to nurses to firefighters, to those coming off a night shift, such as 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift, will have less than adequate normal neighborhood noise decibels. A majority of these people here this evening are currently living now in this neighborhood. They're taxpayers, homeowners, and members of the community that live in this neighborhood now. What type of noise mitigation can you possibly even provide that would somehow magically be available to mitigate the higher noise decibels associated with this magnitude? It certainly would exceed the decibel level of regular neighborhood noise of the current residential neighborhood. And really, my question is, how can that be achievable? As a developer, you're in an extremely unique situation that also puts you at odds with the established environment of the neighborhoods around you. And an opinion here, I'm likening this to forcing a square peg into a round hole. It does not commiserate with the existing environment, unfortunately. And speaking to the planning department, it is a unique and imbalanced project on the table. And being that it's a proposal, it's not something that you should just necessarily approve it. Once again, it just seems that the general plan has changed, resulting in an out-of-sync plan that is by and large going to be a problem for the existing community that surrounds all four sides. It limits egress options for the higher density that will largely be inadequate. So, in my opinion, it does not serve the community or its surrounding nature, riparian, and creek environment, and the wildlife. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have our final comment right over here. And then I will say, as I'm walking up, that we will have staff after the meeting that will stay behind and answer any additional questions after the meeting concludes.
I live on Bridgewood Drive. I'm Jan Davis. And Paul said that learn to get your other accesses out of your neighborhood. When we, as you heard from everyone, Brush Creek was backed up. You couldn't get out. Bridgewood was backed up. Okay. Bridgewood was backed up. Brush Creek was backed up in the last fire. We're going to have all these new homes now. Their access, I can go out and go up Pfister and go out Brush Creek, down Brush Creek. I can go, or the rest of us can go out Bridgewood Drive. Now, we're going to have how many homes coming through our neighborhood and down Brush Creek? We have no access. The traffic's going to be worse. That's one point. The other one's for Mike. It just has not been addressed. How are you going to feed everyone into Bridgewood Drive from Montecito. You can't get across there now. The traffic coming down Fountain Grove, the 5 o'clock traffic, the 8 o'clock traffic, and all the schools. You can't get out of there. Now cross that with all the subdivision and Brush Creek, it's a nightmare. That's my point.
Okay, thank you. And I see a gentleman standing up here, and I'm assuming you want to make a final comment as well?
Yeah, can I do it up?
Yeah, go ahead, please, while I make my way
I'll
down
try to
here.
make it short, but anyway, can you hear me? My name is Joe Marino. I'm
A little bit closer, I believe.
There's a button on the right that you can, yeah.
okay. My name is Joe Marino. I have the adjacent property.
You have to get the mic real close. There you go.
Hi, my name is Joe Marino. I have a property that's adjacent to the proposed property. And I appreciate the need for additional housing. And my main comment is to ensure that the project meets all the city and federal government public safety, infrastructure, and environmental capabilities within the neighborhood. My first concern is an emergency evacuation. I don't know if anybody else has addressed also. I got here late, so I apologize if we're going over this again. But I have firsthand experience with catastrophic fires. My wife and I lost our home and everything we owned, as well as some of our neighbors lost their lives because there was inadequate evacuation in time. But before approving additional homes, I asked the city planning department to carefully evaluate whether existing evacuation routes have adequate capacity for both current and future residents. This should include realistic evaluation modeling that reflects peak conditions during emergencies. My second concern is traffic, pedestrians, and safety. Badger Road already serves existing neighborhoods, schools, and local traffic. This could ensure, the city should ensure that any traffic analysis reflects the current, excuse me. The city should ensure that the traffic analysis reflects current conditions and projected growth and for the emergency vehicles. The third is infrastructure. Existing residents deserve assurance that the water, sewer, drainage, noise, air quality, biological resources, and other public services have sufficient capacity without reducing service levels or increasing flooding risks. My first question would be, who's paying for the increased infrastructure? Is the city paying for that or the developer?
Cleve Gurney, Deputy Director of Engineering Development Services. So the developer is responsible for installing, for financing all of that public infrastructure that's going in.
Okay, thank you. I respectfully ask the city to withhold approval until these issues have been fully evaluated and findings required by the city, the state law are supported by substantial evidence. In addition, I would like to obtain a copy of the studies, reports prepared by the developer and all city agencies involved in the project. After this meeting, I can supply you with my contact information. Thank you for your time and your services to the community.
Joe, I wanted to get back to you on a couple things. The project materials are all on the project webpage. If you think there's something missing, go ahead and contact me. I'll pull up my slide again with my contact information. And then we do get this question frequently with development. What about the water? City of Santa Rosa does an urban water management plan that looks at not just projected growth, but density. Do we have enough water to allow for this development? And given the density of this property, we do.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of the question and answer period for the meeting. Do you want some?
No, I'm seeing some of the head shakes. I just want to make sure, one of the things I want to say is although the meeting's ending, there's a lot of comments that were made that weren't necessarily questions that I fully intend on saying and addressing with those that want to talk to me. Everything from the fire risk area that was discussed, I'm happy to discuss your concerns. And then also explain, Mike Van Mitty and I were looking at each other. Make sure everybody understands that completely independent of this project, the city, as required by law, is in the middle of an evacuation study and analysis that's happening just because of state law, completely independent of this project that is evaluating evacuations in general, not just from wildfires, but from flooding, from other major disasters across the entire city, including this project area.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and wrap up this meeting. And again, it has been recorded, so it will be posted on the project website in the next day or so. And otherwise, as our fire marshal has mentioned, we will be staying behind in case there are any follow-up questions. And thank you very much for coming this evening.